saw what I had on before I had on white. It's like Deborah always said, don't no white, Carol, because it's
Yeah,
a light.
believe it or not, white,
White
black
is
are not, you don't wanna wear those in summer.
Something.
So that's the door you might move it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I get to wear whatever I want.
Isn't that special?
I'm behind.
So where are you from? Vicky, right? You said
Nikki.
Nikki.
And I worked at Channel 12.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so I was a news reporter and anchor over there.
Oh, so you knew Lynn Sue and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kim Covington. And
Kim,
I
yeah.
worked with all of them, yeah.
I serve on a board with Kim Covington.
I know you are. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you about that. So, yeah, I'll talk to you. We'll go talk about all that kind of
You
stuff.
guys can talk.
Did you want to do mic check or anything? Or are we good to go?
I've been doing that since you guys been talking.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And Lynn Sue, it was so sad when she left.
Oh, I know, but she's loving it.
Is she having a good time?
She is.
Have you tasted those treats yet?
Oh, yeah.
I have to call
Yeah,
her.
I got her treats in this interior design place way on the east side where I live in Mesa.
Really?
Yeah.
Good
So
for her.
trying to get her some exposure.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I know this is super easy, but for editing purposes, I'm just gonna go through the normal stuff that we do as far as, can I have you spell your first and last middle name, just everything.
Okay. Carole, Carole, Coles, Coles, Henry, Henry.
Okay, and what is your current title?
Well, I am the retired City of Phoenix Equal Opportunity Director. I retired in 2007, and now I get an opportunity to be a community volunteer and a wife and a mom and a grandmom and all those great things.
Do you feel that now that the work is over, you know what I mean, like your day-to-day 9-to-5 job, do you feel kind of like a rebirth and getting into, not that you haven't done what you've wanted to do, but I guess you can take it to another level?
Absolutely. The blessing in being retired is you have an opportunity to do all the things that you thought of when you were engaged, fully engaged, working. So now I have a chance to address some of the more specific, what I consider community engagement needs and civic engagement needs in the community that I always dreamed about, even though I was actively involved in my position as the Equal Opportunity Director and, over the years of various positions, over 27 years with the City of Phoenix. Now I get a chance to be selective and to be more directive about the things that I feel, especially in the areas of social injustice and community engagement opportunities, that type of thing.
Can you give me a bit more specific bullet points? Like what's the top of your list? What do you want to try and tackle?
Well, right now, one of the really big things I've been tackling is the under-education and lack of higher education opportunities for young people in the community. A higher education opportunity is not a given for many young people. So one of the things I've been concentrating on is a scholarship program. And I'm just so pleased to let you know that we have expanded that to provide $25,000 annually through the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Program and Candlelight Program. So actually it's coming up in the next, this weekend, January 15th at Pilgrim West Baptist Church. And the blessing in all that is it includes a partnership between the community, corporations, a faith-based community, and just local citizens who want to just write those checks and make money available for students. The other thing that I've been working on specifically is a community police trust initiative with the City of Phoenix Police Department and the City Manager's Office to specifically identify ways to build trust and relationships between the Phoenix Police Department and the community that it serves. So I'm just on the heels of serving a year in a co-chair role with Julian Nabosny, who's a local philanthropist and owner of McDonald's. We co-chaired that initiative and gave about 15 to 19 recommendations to the city to help improve those relationships. And that comes on the heels of a lot of national issues regarding relationships between communities and law enforcement. This is a big issue. It's something especially with the criminal justice issues that we're faced with, the big need for criminal justice reform and building relationships, not just with law enforcement, between faith-based communities, education. So one of the things I'm just excited about is that we laid out a blueprint through that initiative that will take the City of Phoenix into the future.
Well, all this hard work obviously has not not gone unnoticed. I mean, I'm confident in assuming that you do what you do not to get rewarded, but it's what you want to do. It's your passion. But you are being rewarded. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And were you excited or were you surprised?
I'm surprised and I'm honored. One of the things that I learned as an 8-year-old child growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is where I'm from, the Homestead Community Center. I was 8 years old and I used to give out the crayons, and so they named me Homestead Youth of the Year, and I was just floored because I couldn't imagine that I would get a $25 savings bond and this little medallion for passing out crayons. So for me to fast forward almost 50 years later, a little bit more than that, to be able to be recognized for contributions of things that are inherently within my spirit and my soul. I grew up in a family where it was really important to give back. So whether you're passing out crayons, whether you're chairing an initiative, hosting budget hearings in partnership with the City of Phoenix is one of the things we did last year. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing something to be of service and to give back to other people. I learned that at a very young age, and I learned also, growing up during the Civil Rights Movement, that one person can make a difference. One person's voice, one person's actions can change, the whole dynamic of what happens in the future for a community. So even right now, whether I'm living in my own community, addressing the need for a street light on the corner, or a curb cut for a disabled person, everybody has an opportunity, and it's a call to action for all of our lives to be civically engaged. But the award in and of itself is affirmation of the work. I don't do it for the award. The rewards that I get is a satisfaction every night when I lay my head on the pillow that I've done something that can affect a life. And at the end of the day, if I could in my story and my legacy just be that one thing, that I did something to help another person, I would feel like my life has been fulfilled.
What would you say is one of the greatest challenges that you've ever had to experience in your life?
Goodness. Well, I would say one of the greatest challenges that I've experienced from the time I was 13, where I saw the only store in my neighborhood burned to the ground in Pittsburgh because Dr. Martin Luther King had been assassinated. I thought at the age of 13, gee, what would make a community so frustrated and so out of touch that it would burn down the only access to fresh fruit and vegetables, let's say. So for me, I said, I've got to look at life. I got to look at this homelessness thing, and I got to look at this thing of lack of opportunity for people, whether it's through higher education or whether it's affordable health care or lack to fair housing and equal access to opportunity, equal pay for women. And so for the past 50 years or so, I would say it's been a journey to watch the injustices in society and to look at how far we've come, but more importantly, look at all the work that's yet to be done. I would have thought by now, almost 50 years later, me looking at society and looking at especially inner cities and in urban communities that continue to struggle with a lack of access to employment and fairness and opportunity. So I think that's been the greatest challenge for me, is to look at it. But when I'm a social worker by education, my master's degree is in social work and my bachelor's degree is in elementary education. And when I came here in 1980, I had one in one hand and one in the other. And I said, social workers, when I found that you could use the preamble of the social work ethic, the preamble, and there's a clause in there that talks about social and economic justice. And I said, boy, what a way to marry my passion with education, with my education. And so for me, the greatest challenge is just to look at the needs in the community and see so much work that still needs to be done. But, we all have that opportunity to be a voice and to be a resource, and that's what I tried to do with my life.
You brought up being 13 and seeing things that kids would be fearful, but you didn't. Just hearing you now, fear didn't even seem to come to your mind, at least back then. How you describe it now, you seemed like you were just more, what is going on here? I want to figure this out. And I think that's very rare, Because normally looking back at times like that, you think, oh, it was a scary time and I was only 13 and I'm fearful, but did you ever have fear coming up against obstacles?
You know, it's very strange. Even till this day for myself, I look at things and I say, you know, you launch off into something that has political ramifications, especially in my job, I would say, oh my goodness, being the director of the City of Phoenix Equal Opportunity Department and having policies that you're bringing forward to elected officials and to city management, and whether or not those types of ideas, some of them were very avant-garde in my opinion. But we had an incredible anti-discrimination ordinance that was the basis, and it was the value of the organization. And I always remembered the value, the preamble to the social work clause, the young person who saw the store burned down in the community. I knew that I had to be fearless, and I knew that I had to be committed, but more importantly, I knew that I had to, because of the call of action on my life, I had a responsibility to go forward in such a way that people understood that I was self-directed, and I understood the role and responsibility that each and every one of us has to give back. So fear, for me, was always inherent, you know, but you can't, you know, they always used to say, never let them see you sweat. So that's how I sweated. I would go in the bathroom and pray, or I would go and put on a good song, good gospel music, whatever it was to uplift me. But, you know, when you have faith, it's all faith, no fear. That's how I've lived my life.
And who have you looked up to?
Oh my goodness. My list is so big.
That's great.
This list is so big of who I look up to. But it started off actually with my mom, who worked her way from extreme poverty and clean homes. And between my parents, my mom and dad, I'm a child of a steel worker and a banker. But it wasn't always that way. We grew up poor. We grew up in a, quote, hood. But they worked their way inch by inch. So those 5 jobs, hard work and determination was just inherent in everything about my life. So my mom worked her way to become the first African-American female who was an officer in a full-service bank and a manager in Pennsylvania. So she was the branch manager and the officer for Pittsburgh National Bank. And I watched her work her way from cleaning homes and being a waitress. And so I had that image for myself. And then I had my dad, who worked in U.S. Steel for 30 years. Well, actually, no, he would tell you it was 42 years, I'm sorry. He worked for U.S. Steel as a steel worker, and he became the first African-American machinist at Homestead Steelworks. And he only took one sick day over the course of those 42 years. So the images that I had before me were hard work, determination, give your best, but more importantly, you're going to go to college and get your education. So my sister, my brother, and I, all 3 of us, we're first-generation college graduates, but the Coles family and Rose family history is so deep, is that I can go back to the 1850s with photos of family members. So post-slavery, there's this huge history of hard work, determination, getting out of poverty, giving back to other people, and making sure that you make your life have meaning. So I would say my mom, my dad, and then more from a contemporary perspective, I would be extremely remiss if I didn't tell you City Councilman Calvin C. Good, who was a former city councilman and retired with 22 years of service, embraced me as a young change agent in waiting when I moved to Phoenix and taught me the ropes of City Hall. And so he'll be 90 in January, and he continues to be my dear friend, and he was one of my just incredible mentors over the course of years. So I have just so many people that I could tell you that just have supported me and put their arms around me and shaped me to be the person that I am. And the last person who gives me inspiration is my husband, Booker, of 30 years. A lady told me in Tucson last week, she said, you give me hope, because you don't see this anymore, people being married for 30 years. So he's my friend, my lover, and my husband. So.
Well, that's great. What do you, looking at the YWCA, speaking of role models and empowering women and shedding light on social issues, how do you see YWCA's impact on all of that?
The YWCA has been a part of my life for a very long time. When I first moved to Phoenix in the 80s, I was connected with Esther. I can't think of her last name, but we were working on some initiatives on behalf of women and girls. And the Y, with its mission of empowering women and eliminating racism, their work from 150 years ago to the work in 2017 is even more important now because society continues to shift and change. And so whether you're talking about financial literacy or whether we're talking about feeding senior citizens or eliminating racism, the work that the Y does, not only in this community, nationally, internationally, continues to be very important and very significant. One of the things that I'm excited about here locally is the discussion about taking the local Y to a next level about eliminating racism, and I will do whatever I can to support their work. We at the City of Phoenix had a very strong Phoenix Women's Commission that was underneath my leadership, and the work, whether we were working on International Women's Day to celebrate the contributions of women, from a contemporary perspective, pay equity issues for women, women representation on boards and commissions, not only just locally, but on a national level. I see the Y as being a significant partner, a significant resource, and a game changer, I believe, in the Valley of the Sun, in the nation and in the world.
How do you, where do you see the advancement of just women in general? I mean, we've come a long way, like you said. We definitely come a long way. We have a long way to go. But with our, Hillary Clinton running for president, she made it down to the final two, but she wasn't the first. There were women who were running before her as well. But just the fact that there's women running for president, talk to me about that and the current state of where we are now.
Well, when we look back you go back to the women's suffragist movement, women couldn't have the right to work, couldn't have the right to vote. We didn't even have the right to have a seat at the table. And now that you see that we had Hillary Clinton, at least have the opportunity to run for president. But I think that we need to do more from a societal perspective to embrace women. I think that we're still a very male-dominated, male-oriented culture. I survived in one for 27 years with the City of Phoenix from a leadership perspective. I was probably the second African-American female to become an executive at the level as a department head, and then the first as an interim deputy city manager. When I say first, I mean this is like we're in the 21st century. So why are we still talking about giving women opportunity? I see that we've come a long way. I see we have a long way to go. Women still are not represented in the key executive positions, whether you talk about Fortune 500 companies, whether we talk about in the significant boards that make a difference in policy-making positions in the federal government, state and local government. So there's been progress, but I still think we have a very male-dominated culture that doesn't understand the value of having, we're sometimes characterized as being too emotional to be at the table, or she's too angry, or she's too, instead of looking at the value of the perspective and the ideas and the unique abilities and contributions that we bring to society. I still feel that we have a long way to go. There's a lot of work that's yet to be done. We're not there yet. One of the things that I will continue to fight for is the representation of women on boards and commissions at the state and local level. I know the value of that perspective. I know the importance of having women who have opportunity to lead nonprofit organizations all the way through, look at local media outlets, and we're seeing more and more women who are anchors and that type of thing, but we're still not there yet. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Well, looking at the importance of organizations like the YWCA, why are they so important? I mean, I guess strength in numbers, but can you give me some other reasons as to why they're so important to our community?
Well, if you take a look at who is concentrating on the needs of women, we still have very strong issues of domestic violence in our communities. We still have very strong issues of women who are raising. Don't get me wrong, a woman can raise as a single parent an effective family, but the support that you need, I believe it takes the entire village that needs to give opportunity. And so the homelessness issue, I mean, take a look, more and more women are going into their senior years in poverty. That's a known fact. It's a national data, and statistics are available about that. The Y's work becomes more important because you address those issues of lack of access to fair housing, lack of access to employment, lack of access to literacy about how to manage your finances so you don't become poverty-ridden in your senior years. How do you go about securing health care that's affordable? It's a process you have to learn, and it's not just by reading, it's by information that's coming to you and then being exposed to women. I believe that's the other Y role. I was just taken aback by a recent reception that I went to as an honoree of the incredible, resourceful, knowledgeable women that were in the room most recently. So a lot of women don't get those opportunities. So the Y becomes a pillar. I believe the YWCA is a pillar, and its role and its responsibility in this community has been taken very seriously by the folks here, but there's an opportunity for them to continue to grow in the areas of need for women.
All right. Well, we certainly talked about a lot. What didn't we touch upon? What else? I mean, because I know you had mentioned, even just kind of getting ready, that you certainly had a lot on your mind. What else can you tell me? It's kind of open mic session.
Yeah.
So did you share, good morning, I'm
Good
so
morning.
tired, good morning, Carol, did you share kind of the work you've done around, because the award she's getting is racial justice.
Yes.
So the work that you've done, your favorite story, accomplishment around that.
We talked a little bit about her childhood and kind of just some challenges. But going on a more positive note, what would you say when we talked about rewards? Not so much for the awards, but the rewards you get. What would you say is one of the most memorable rewards throughout your work that you've done?
Oh, I've got a perfect one.
Okay.
One of the most memorable rewards that I have was getting a chance to meet Rosa Parks. Phoenix was in the midst of trying to get the Dr. King holiday passed, and for the state, we already had the Phoenix holiday. And so one of my staff members came in and said, I think we should invite Rosa Parks to the Dr. King breakfast event that we had at the convention center. I was like, Rosa Parks, oh my gosh. And she accepted. And so I had the pleasure of being at the airport to pick her up, but more importantly, be with her in her hotel room. And so I was downtown at the Hyatt Regency, and it was just the two of us, and she was in her pajamas. And here she is sitting on the bed, and I'm sitting on the bed next to her. And so I just went in the bathroom, and I just said to myself, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? I read about her in the books as a kid. I'm in the room with Rosa Parks. So I got myself together, and I went in there and I said, Mrs. Parks, I just want to ask you one question. And she said, honey, don't ask me any profound question about the civil rights movement. The story here is, she said, I wasn't the first one. There was someone who came before me who refused to get up off the bus and give her seat to a white man. She said, I just happened to be the face that the NAACP, felt was more appropriate. I was articulate. And so the lesson I got out of that experience, it doesn't matter if you're first. It doesn't matter if you're second. Just do your job in the community to make a difference. Use the call of action upon your life. Use the gifts you've been given to use them wisely. And stay connected to people who are trying to make a difference, like the YWCA in the community. So Mrs. Rosa Parks gave me a message that I carry. It's a story. It's a true benefit to my spirit and my soul. Because she said, don't worry about where you fit in the order of things. Just do what you can from where you sit.
That's awesome that you even had the chance to have that experience. I mean, that is, I would go to the bathroom too.
I had to hit myself and just say to myself, I'm in here with Rosa Parks. And then the next year it was Stevie Wonder. So throughout my career, I have just met some amazing, incredible women. We brought Gloria Steinem here one year, through the Women's Commission. There's just Susan Taylor from Essence Magazine. I mean, I was on the interview set with Susan Taylor, and I just had to go out in the hall, and I was with, at that time, assistant city manager Cyril Scully, who is now city manager in San Antonio. And I just have always been surrounded by just amazing women of all diverse backgrounds, all diverse ethnic groups, locations where we all came from, our education. And the thing is that we have to figure out how to help women to understand. I truly believe in the midst of all of what's happening in society and the nation and the world, to help people to understand, don't worry about who you know and where you fit. Just get in there, network, reach out to people who are different than you. Take time to spend time learning about topics. Travel as much as you can. I mean, I cannot tell you, I wound up even becoming a federal reviewer for the federal government and traveled through leadership development programs all across the United States. I have friends in Hawaii. I have an intern in South Africa who's now a government official who was here at ASU. The relationships that we make as women can carry us, from point A to point Z if we just figure out how to use the network, make the contact, build your, at that time it was a Rolodex, but build your contacts in your phones and figure out to use the resources in which you have to make a difference in society. That's really what life is all about.
If you could, one last question, unless Bridget, you certainly have some more.
Fantastic.
But if you could create the future, what would it look like? And what is the ideal future? I know nothing's ever perfect, but what would you like to see?
Well, at the top of my list would be the elimination of all this discussion about race and racism. The ideal future was when you leave outside of the United States and go to another country, depending on where it is, because there are some places that are not so great, but when you realize how bad it is here in terms of that aspect of things, if we could just get beyond race, if we could move into an appreciation of the contributions that all of us bring to society, to move away from, the issues of social and economic injustices, whether it's women business owners having opportunities, we would see more women in the boardroom. We'd see more women leading states, more women running for office. We would see more women populating boards and commissions. We would see more women being on the local neighborhood advisory committees, local PTAs, and we would see men appreciating the contributions that we bring, and their mindset switching from, we need to have a token here, but it would become a priority to make sure you have a diverse group of people represented in all aspects of society. That would be the ideal situation. And we would see a lack of homelessness, the unemployment figures going down. We would see more and more people having access to educational opportunities for themselves and their children. Right now, there are people who I talk to that tell me I'm working 3 jobs, young people. And it's frightening to me to hear younger people, we haven't turned the corner on that. The underemployment, there are people who are becoming more and more employed because there are a lot more people working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So we would see less and less of that. And we would see people talking about more and more about the contributions of who we are versus what we look like. We'd see people, instead of worrying about, are you straight, are you gay, are you black, are you white, we would just be talking about, we're just all people here to be on earth to do God's work. That's all it's about.
Well, congratulations again on your award. It's well deserved.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. It's a privilege. And I just hope that my mother always told me, she said, one of the things about you, Carole, is that you learned how to use your gifts wisely. But I hope that I do one of the most honorable things that she told me is that I would light a little corner of the world where I live. So I'm just trying to light my little corner of the world. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Great.
Wow.
Thank you.
No, hello.
Hey.
It's so nice.
I know.
Oh, you
I had
did
so much to
beautiful
say.